Welcome to REIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of REIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is time is money. I really don't know a nice way to put this, so I'm just going to say it. Stop asking experts if you can take them out for a cup of coffee to pick their brain. I cannot tell you the last time I actually had time to drive to a Starbucks to drink their overpriced coffee, much less spend an hour there. If you have a quick question like, who's an investor-friendly closing attorney, or where do you buy your tile, then just email or text that person. But to ask for an hour of someone's time to get their expert opinion from years of experience is worth way more than a cup of coffee. Now, me personally, I love chatting with newbies. I actually really enjoy answering questions, for I believe the best form of learning is through teaching. I love to bring newer investors along when I walk our projects because throughout their questioning of how we do certain things, it may uncover something that we may have missed. But my all-time favorite is when newer folks offer to help us, say, clean out a hoarder house, or put furniture together in one of our short-term rentals, or help spread mulch and plant a few flowers before we list a completed rehab. This helps me tremendously, and it helps them to get on-site experience. So, next time you meet an expert and have follow-up questions, ask if you can volunteer your time to help them and watch how quickly they say yes. Now on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Cody Bjugan. Cody is a seasoned real estate developer and the founder of Allied Development and VestRight. Allied Development is a real estate development company that specializes in acquisition and entitlement of off-market raw land across the country that has development potential. VestRight is an educational and coaching company dedicated to making an impact on lives by teaching real estate investors, real estate agents, and other entrepreneurs how to become land acquisitions specialists. Through VestRight, Cody has trained hundreds of students on how he successfully finds off-market raw land with development potential and sells them for 6 to 7 figures profit per deal without putting his own capital at risk, and how his students can learn to do the same. I am excited to dive into this topic, so welcome to the show, Cody. Bjugan.
Thanks for having me. Bjugan, you nailed it. That was good.
By the way, folks,
so
his last name is spelled Bjugan, and I was like, what? How do you say that? So Bjugan. Got it. Corey,
nailed it.
Welcome to the show. I can't wait to hear about this. And I was telling you before we began, I'm very selfish because I have needs and I think I need to get into some land stuff. So before we get into that, because I'm excited, tell me how you got involved with real estate.
Well, I'll tell you, I got a degree in reality check. I got my high school girlfriend pregnant. And right out of high school, got married, had a little boy, and the flooring union. Okay, someone had suggested the flooring union to me, and you get health insurance within 3 months, and so full benefits. So I went into the flooring union before my son was born, so I could pay for him.
Oh my goodness!
And so I ended up in the trades, And then just I was in the trades for about 6 years and ended up building a lot of relationships, in the new construction space, and one thing led to another, met a lot of great people, and different individuals inspired me. And, I went self-employed, started my own business in 2002. I was 24 years old. And I'm actually glad I started it at that early of an age, because I don't think fear registers the same way when you're that young.
Man, I wish I started back in my 20s. I'll tell you that.
So anyways, that's I started out in the trades. That's how I got into it.
So what type of flooring did you do?
Oh, when I was in the union, I was just a laborer. I was scraping floors and putting up rubber base or whatever I needed to do. But by the time I left the industry, I was running a flooring company and interior design where we did all surfaces, right? Any type of floors or counter surface, we handled it.
Well, I just spent a ton of money on flooring because I just moved into this house literally 2 weeks ago, and we had the original hardwood floors in most of the house. Then we added out the back, and my flooring guys just really blended them together, and man, they did a great job. So it is a talent flooring, I got to say.
There you go.
And plus I got pallets of this gray tile so it's everywhere in this house, including this room, which is why it's a little echoey, but it's not about me. Today, it's about you, Corey, and you are going to teach us about raw land. And you were telling me that there's a difference, and I had never heard of this term before, but horizontal construction versus vertical construction or development. And what does that mean, horizontal?
Oh yeah. So horizontal is just pretty simple. Just the land, right? The land runs horizontal and then the buildings run vertical. So, and they're usually two different phases in specifically single family residential, where the horizontal, or where you put in all the streets, the utilities, street lights, all of that, right? The actual land development is called, a lot of people refer to that as horizontal construction or development, versus when you go to build the homes, that's you can call it home building, sure, or whatever, but a lot of times people refer to that as the vertical construction or the vertical development. So what's neat in the single family space is that those are two completely different projects. You could go in and just develop the land and then sell the lots, right? Where say in a multifamily project, you're going to go in and do the horizontal and the vertical all as one project, right? So
it is mind-blowing to me how that even works, because just connecting electrical to an existing property and the going from this post to but to not even have any of that, where do you even begin to develop raw land?
Well, one is even know what you're looking for, right? So, I say this the right way. There's lots of people, just because I've been in this industry so long, they'll say, "Hey, Cody, I know about this great piece. This would be the perfect place to put a development. It's this beautiful piece of property, blah, blah, blah." Well, it's just not that simple. Okay. There's a few individuals out there that teach, models in real estate around raw land as well, but they're usually teaching more of a wholesale model related to raw land, where you're going and tying up some piece of rural land and you're flipping it and making a quick buck. Okay. Our model is all about, that I know of, I'm the only one teaching it, is to go and find raw land that actually has the potential to turn into a development. Okay. And so there's a lot involved there. And when I got into it in 2002, I had a great partner back then, but, we learned through a lot of mistakes and failures and challenges, because there's really not a lot of education out there in this area. So, but you got to understand certain components. If I was just to touch the tip of the iceberg, I'll give you 5 quick things. Okay. To know whether you have a shot at that piece of property being developable. And usually when Joe Blow brings me a piece, it's not developable. Okay. Because they don't understand what needs to be in place for it to be developable.
Right.
One, let's just say that zoning. Okay. What's the property zoned? Or what is the jurisdiction willing to zone it? Okay. Through a rezone process. And that information is very easy to find with the jurisdiction, right? It's probably on their website. If not, call the planner on duty and they'll share that with you. 2 is, what are the utilities? So we specialize in mainly single family residential is our bread and butter. And so for us, where we're at now as a company, we're doing projects that are 100 to 500 lots. when I got going 20 years ago, I was doing deals that were 2-3 lots. So you can start anywhere, but public utilities are really important. Is there sanitary sewer? Is there water, right? That's public, because you've got to be able to serve the development. So we're not out doing, rural development, because that's also possible where you might go buy a piece of property that's rural and you might say divide it up into 5-acre lots and use septic, and you might even use wells and all of that, right? Like that's not the model we do or teach. Okay. Now, the process is very similar to what we teach. I mean, you could take what we teach and go do that. That's not what we've chose to do as a company. The next is public access, is that you might have a great piece, but can people get to it, right? So is there a public road, a public right-of-way stubbed into the property or running along the property? Or maybe it's not, but it's one parcel away. And so can you buy the piece in between the public right-of-way and your piece? Or will that piece give you an easement, right? Or you got to be able to get to the public right-of-way, okay? Or the public road. Next would be topography. What's the topography of the land, right? So like a flat piece of property costs less to develop than say a steep piece of property, right? Some properties, because of the topography, even though they might be developable, you don't develop them because they're not cost effective to develop. By the time you went and developed it, you'd be into it for more than what they're worth finished, right? As far as the right. And so, or there's, topography where the land is downsloping, say away from the road where the public utilities are, and the jurisdiction won't let you pump the sanitary sewer because they don't allow pump stations. Yep. And so there's, you got to understand the topography component and the costs and the challenges that topography can create. And then lastly is, okay, you checked all the boxes. It's a great piece. Well, make sure you check for overlays, because a lot of properties have overlays on them that make them undevelopable or challenging to develop, like an environmental overlay, right? Or a steep slope overlay, or there's a floodplain overlay on it. Like you got to be aware is there any overlays on the piece? Don't get me wrong. I've developed many, many pieces of property that had overlays on them. But what happened is we put boots on the ground, did some studies, and were able to move those overlay lines, because a lot of those overlays are created through satellite imaging. Or we might just develop half the property or 3/4 of it, right? So, but those are the 5 basic points to just tip of the iceberg to know whether you have a shot of that piece being developable or not.
So I actually own a cabin that has no utilities run to it. We had to do a well and septic. It's on the side of a mountain, so my topography is non-existent. Yeah. It's like on stilts. And the public access, it's tough. So yes, I get it. I have this whole acre and they said, oh, you can develop the rest of it. I'm like, how? So yes, I'm with you 1,000%. To back up, because I do have a question on this. I was looking at a property. It was 5 acres. And I was like, there's one big, beautiful house on it. And then there's 2 mobile homes on it. I said, I will do this. So I went to the city, like you said. I found out the zoning, and yes, it could add more. The utilities, everything checking all the boxes, like you said. But then it got to a part where they said the land has to perk. So what the heck does that mean?
Well, it means probably that it was an area where you were going to do septic, right? So it means it's got a perk. It's a test to see if the soil will absorb, the sewage from the drain field, right? So it's got to be able to absorb that through the drain field lines. And so we don't really get into perking, because everything we do, we hook up to public sewer.
Yes.
Right. So we don't get into septics and drain fields and all that, but that is a form of development. Like I was saying earlier, that people are doing more rural development where you are dealing with septic tanks and drain fields and all of that, but they need to make sure it perks to make sure that it'll actually absorb into the ground.
Now it makes sense, because just to do the perk test and go through and do all that stuff, I'm like, yep, I'm too tired already. I'm already over this. So I moved on. But that literally, I was like, I stopped at the perk test and I'm like, I'm out. Peace out. So that's about as far as I got. But I will tell you, my husband, I did tell him at one point, I'm like, I've always wanted to sleep with a general contractor. And instead of him saying which one, he said he went out and got his GC license. That was my way of getting him to get his GC license. And now that he has it, and I was telling you before, we did our first new build, and it was heavenly because we knew the prices of everything. You don't have these surprises when you take down a wall, etc. So I want to really get into probably finding some land and have this be our next, we're doing multifamily right now just because the way the market is, etc. But it is on the horizon for us. So I asked you for a couple bullet points and topics, and you gave me a bunch of letters. And this first one here is DCD. What does that mean? A bunch of letters.
DCD. So DCD means dirt controls deals. And in essence, whoever controls the dirt controls the deal. Okay. Because that's any multifamily deal you're doing, any fix and flips you've done, any wholesale deal you've done, any apartment complex storage, I don't care what it is. Every one of those deals, every piece of real estate, any building you see out there, okay, every single one of those assets started with the dirt.
Yep.
Okay. And if you learn the dirt game, and more specifically, dirt or land that has development potential, you get in at the ground level, okay? Now you're in control. You can decide, okay, I'm going to go do this whole deal all the way through myself, or I'm going to bring in a partner at this point, or I'm going to bring in an investor at this point, or I'm going to exit the deal at this point. You call the shots because you're in at the ground floor. So you can now design this or, architect the deal however you please based upon what you're trying to accomplish. And that's where, DCD, dirt controls the deal. That's where that comes from.
It's like the McDonald's guy. What was his name? He owned all the buildings where the McDonald's were. Anyway.
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah, he really wasn't in the restaurant business. He was in the real estate business.
Exactly. Yep. All right. So you talk about finding land that has development potential. What does that look like? So
we'll do on-market deals here and there, rarely. And the reason for it is if you don't have deal flow, nothing else really matters.
So true.
Right? So true. And if you're always waiting for something to get listed for sale, or you're waiting for, your 100 real estate agents that you supposedly think you have a relationship with to bring you a deal, just think about that. Like, I would prefer to play in a blue ocean versus a red ocean. I don't know about you, but I think blue oceans are a lot prettier. And so think about it. Okay, it's a pocket deal. It's a pocket listing. It's not listed. It's off market. Do you really think you're the only person that real estate agent is contacting?
Right.
Right? Like, do
you think they're not going to ask for a commission either?
Yeah. So we're just a big believer in doing off market. So, because then we can control our own deal flow, and we do that through a lot of different ways. We figure out different areas of the country we want to be. We figure out the economics, the demographics. We figure out, the school ratings, the income levels, the average house prices. We figure out where the utilities are. We figure out the topography, all those things I talked about, right? And we create this criteria. And then, the free way to do it is we used to send an area that we wanted information on all the properties. We'd send that to our title company, and they'd send us over all the information on those owners, right? And then we would go and pull their information, right? And send them letters and call them. And now we have our own subscription. There's many platforms out there that you can pay, an annual or monthly fee to, and you can go pull that data yourself, right? So that's what we do. And then we literally, there's really no magic to it. We do our mailers, we do our cold calls. And so people are like, Cody, how do you do it? It's so unique. There's really nothing unique about it. Mm-hmm. We just choose to do the work. Okay. Most people don't want to deal with sending mailers or cold calling or, but that's fine. We're just willing to do the work. And that's why we're getting the deals.
But what are the good deals? Is it like farmland? Is it just like a forest field? Like what is the land?
That's irrelevant to us.
Really?
Whether
Okay.
it's farmland or it's a forest or, whatever. It just more comes down to the economics of the deal, right? So is the land in a good area of town, right? Do people want to live there? What are the values? Is it an expensive, how much is it going to cost us to develop that piece? But I mean, we've bought in plenty of pieces that are fully treed, and we've bought in plenty of pieces that are hay fields, right? So that's irrelevant to us. It all comes down to just the math. I mean, we don't try to overcomplicate what we do. I mean, don't get me wrong, you need to get educated. Otherwise you'll make some really bad mistakes, and waste a lot of your time and waste sellers' time, or property owners' time. But we're in the math business. It's just math.
So VestRight, your company, your coaching program, you teach students to find this land and then get it under contract and then wholesale it, flip it, add the utilities, do all that? Or what are all the aspects because you're really just flipping the land, correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, you could just flip the land, but, or your contract.
Like, how do you make those 6 and 7 figures is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So we teach that there's numerous exit points and there's numerous payday points. And when you exit a deal versus when you get a paid on a deal do not have to be at the same point. Okay. So to simplify that, the longer you're willing to wait to get paid, the more likely the more you're going to make. Right.
Oh, okay.
But we teach numerous exit points. You might just go tie up a deal and flip the contract like a wholesaler,
okay,
and make a quick buck, right? You might decide to take it at least through the due diligence process and then flip it. So be it. You might decide to take it through the land use or the preliminary plat approval process and flip and walk. That's fine. You might decide to take it through the construction drawings, the actual drawings that the project's gonna be built on, and through up till right before pulling the permits and exit. You might decide to go do the construction and then exit. I mean, there's numerous points when you can exit. The key is that there's no right or wrong answer. It's what do you want your business model to be? And so where we see the types of paydays we accomplish with not near the risk that you might think we take is that we are in the value add business. Let me say that again. So like the wholesaling business, I hate to say it, but you're not in the value add business.
Right.
Okay. Wholesalers, you're in the business of trying to tie up something below market, flip it to an investor and make a quick buck.
Right.
Okay. You don't really bring any value to the transaction. Okay. All you did is somehow found a motivated or desperate seller that you took advantage of, just to be frank. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's just that. That's so brutal. And I have many friends that I love and care about that are in the wholesale business. I'm not attacking anybody. It's just not the business I want to be in.
Right.
Right. So
I agree.
So I want to be in the value add business, and there's a lot of different value add models in real estate. Ours happens to be going and finding raw land that has development potential, taking it through the political approval process or the land use process or the entitlement process, whatever you want to call it, and turning that raw land into an approved development. Okay. That brings tremendous value to that project, that you handled that process. Okay. That's why you can make 6 and 7 figures. So very basic. Because like I think I told you before the show, I've done tons of horizontal construction. I've done tons of vertical construction. We've just honed into where do we think we can get the highest ROI on our time and our money. And we've honed it into this off-market prospecting and getting it through this approval process, turning it into an approved development, and then exiting. Okay. That's our niche. That's where we specialize. That's where we are teaching what we don't know of anybody else teaching. And we've done it for a long, long time. And we decided that, hey, let's take this and go bless the world with it, mm-hmm. and turn it into a course and be a part of changing other people's lives. Like my shirt, PIF, Purpose, Impact, Fulfillment. The Lord put me in a position to take my 20 years of unique experience and go teach it to others, make a positive impact, which then brings fulfillment to my life. right? Here's the reality. None of us are searching for happiness. I don't even like the word happy. What we're all searching for is fulfillment, whether we know it or not. And guess what? You have no shot in hell at fulfillment or lasting fulfillment in your life unless you're making a positive impact. Pure and simple, no questions asked. If anybody wants to debate that, let's debate it. But you're not going to find true lasting fulfillment without making an impact. That's why I started VestRight. Okay. If there's one thing that you and your audience can get from me today that's more important than anything else I have to say, okay, is that I take it through that entitlement process, that approval process. Okay. I can now turn it into an approved development. I now brought my value to the transaction. What's beautiful is at that point, that's where you can do a double closing or simultaneous closing. Okay. Where you bring in your buyer's money, you pay your seller with it, and you make your scrape out of the middle. And your buyers are ecstatic to pay you what they're going to pay you and for you to make what you're making because you brought value to the transaction. Okay. If you're going to come play in my space, do me one favor. Okay. Because if you don't do this, all you do is you're going to regret it. And all you do is screw my industry up. Is that most people think real estate transactions, you close them in 30 to 60 days and you have a 10-day inspection period or maybe a 30-day inspection period. But they're used to transactions happening like that.
Right.
That's not how transactions happen in my space. Okay. Is that Joe Blow farmer? Let me tell you something. Joe Blow farmer, let's say his land is worth $10,000 an acre as is sitting there right now. It's worth $10,000 an acre. But to me, because of the development potential, I might pay him 5 to 10 times that. Okay. The key though, is if he wants that payday of 5 to 10 times, he needs to wait until I get the project approved before I'll close. And people say, and so if you come in and you pay that 5 to 10 times and you close it like a normal real estate transaction, it's very obvious to people like me that you don't know what you're doing. And you just took an insanely stupid risk that is unnecessary because that's not how our industry works. And I will tell you, from middle of 20 to middle of 22, there was many people making that stupid decision. And I guess what? I guarantee they're regretting it right now. Okay?
So, because I literally wrote down, how do you finance these deals? So it's basically seller finance. Well, it's not even.
You don't sell them. You don't finance them.
You're just doing
the
work for them.
Yeah, what you're doing is you have it under contract and you're going to put up some money for earnest money, right? And you're going to put up some money to with engineers and stuff to get get the project approved. Okay. So like I said, let's just give or take, I'm going to do round numbers. I'm not in the trenches anymore at my company, so I'm on the board at this point, but, just roundabout numbers right now. I live in Arizona and my headquarters in Dallas. So, our average deal, let's just say, is 100 to 500 lots for our company all over the country. We spend, give or take, on average, call it $400,000 a deal. Okay. In earnest money and getting the project approved and all of that. Okay. But that's not finance. We happen to have a fund behind us, but I just started my fund a year and a half ago. Before that, I did it with our own capital and friends and family. And I just did it the old school way, right? Like my friends and family, it was like, hey, you guys do the money. I'll do all the work and we'll go 50-50 on the profit. Like there was no magic, scientific formula to it. It was just the basic old school way of doing things. And so it was just recently that we did a fund. And let me add to that. If you have a good deal, you find a good piece. In my career, whenever I've found a great project, a great piece of property, a great opportunity, I've never not been able to find the money. Okay. There's plenty of money out there for good deals.
Agreed.
Okay. So one last thing before I forget is, Cody, how do you get that seller to wait? Because our average deal, it takes, say, 9 to 18 months, right, to get it through all that, depending on where it is in the country. Cody, how do you get the seller to wait that? What do you mean? It's really simple. Billy Bob, you have 10 acres. Do you want me to pay you $100,000 right now? Or do you want me to pay you $1 million in a year? You decide. It's up to you. Here's what I can tell you. Not one seller has ever said, pay me the 100 now. That's how.
Wow.
Okay. but you need to educate them. You need to explain them the process. I believe in selling through one, building a relationship, creating trust. And you do that by caring about that seller, caring about their legacy, knowing what their hot buttons are, knowing what's important to them, realizing that them selling that property might be the largest transaction and ever in the legacy of their family.
Right.
And actually giving a shit about that seller.
Yep.
Okay. And putting together a win-win deal that hits their hot buttons and still works for you. Okay. And so that's by caring. Okay. And that's by, but guess what, man, when the seller starts trusting you, it's amazing how the objections start going away and how the walls come down. And the best way I've found to build trust is by educating the seller.
Right.
Okay. And by actually genuinely giving a shit about them and their legacy.
So I need you to educate me really quickly, because I would have done it the old school way, which you said was a big mistake. I would have paid them the $5,000 per acre right there on the spot. And then you said, now
which is fine.
And now those people are regretting it. But why are they regretting that? So explain that. So they paid all the money. Okay.
If your seller, let me put this the right way. Usually a prime piece of development property, the seller knows it's prime.
Right.
The property owner knows it's prime, to where they're never going to sell it for 10 cents on the dollar to have the money now. They're going to be willing to wait the year to get 10x the money.
Gotcha.
Okay. If it's a piece that you're paying, because remember, you could take the identical same piece of property and put it in 50 different locations throughout the country, and it's going to be worth a different price in every location.
Right.
Right. So none of it is relative as far as, it is all relative. It's all relative to whatever market it's in.
But for those people who did do it that way, why is it a mistake now? Why are they finding out?
I'm not sure I understand your question. So here's what you never want to do. You never want to go pay the 10 times more without the approvals in place.
Okay.
That's stupidity. Okay. Because if all of a sudden, because guess what? You are always going to run into, rarely do we not run into a curveball. Okay. When you're going through that approval process, rarely are you ending up at the end of it with exactly what you thought you were going to at the beginning of it.
Right.
Okay. And if you put yourself in a position where you paid that price without getting through that approval process, that is a mistake. The only way now there's been people that have done that over the last 2 years and made a killing, but it wasn't because they knew what the hell they were doing or because they had great underwriting. Yeah. The market made them money. They didn't make themselves
money.
Okay. Understand this. As soon as you close on real estate and take title, you've lost most of your options. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's just that if I don't wait until approvals to close, now all of a sudden, if we go through a market adjustment, I can go back and renegotiate the deal. I can renegotiate the price. And right now, sellers understand the market has changed. They're just waiting for you to come and ask for the price to be adjusted, right? Or maybe I'll say, you know what? We'll try to hold the price, but I'm going to close an additional year later to see if we can allow this market to come back. Okay. If I already took title, I can't do that. Right. I'm stuck. I already own it. Right. Or worst case scenario, I can walk and I'm not sitting here holding an asset that I paid too much for.
Right. And I, as someone who eventually wants to get into development, will gladly pay someone, because this is all an area that I don't understand. And I really do think you have tapped into a market here where people need this education, because I just perking the land, I don't know what that is. I got to go buy. So I gave up way too easy, but you are educating people and you got to start sending them my way, because I will gladly pay them. The new build that we did, it was actually a tear down rebuild. I shouldn't say it's a new build, but we paid $320 for what would have been a lot, where you in a development type situation, it's not going to be that expensive. So that's why I would gladly pay for someone to do that. So Cody, this is all so fantastic. How do people find your course to join VestRight?
Yeah. Well, first what I want you to do is just go learn a little bit more about my model. And let me say this, even if you never go do what I do, No one can, well, I think we all agree knowledge is power, right?
Yes.
I will tell you, when I walk into a room full of real estate professionals, I usually have an advantage because no one understands what it is that I do. Okay. So if you never go do what I do, it's still worth learning about it because it makes you more powerful. Okay. Because it's knowledge.
Absolutely.
With that said, I want you to I created a free ebook. It's free. I can't be in the business of making guarantees, but I would be amazingly surprised if you go through that ebook and you don't come out the other side more educated. And that alone is my free gift to you because now you're just a little bit more powerful when you walk into the room. Okay. So they just go to VestRight.com, which is VestRight, VestRight.com/your brand Reign. So REIGN. Okay.
Perfect.
So that's VestRight.com/Reign.
I am excited. Yay. You are so correct in everything that you said here because I'm a big believer in education. People go into this industry so quickly and make so many mistakes without investing in themselves. And I do think it's so important to pay someone who has been there, who has the tools to help you get through this. And this is such an area that is truly untapped, I think. And folks, go
we
check
don't
it
call
out.
it a blue ocean for nothing.
Yes.
Right. So it's
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this. And the second half of the podcast is what makes Cody a badass, which you are. And I do thank you for being on the show. I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
I mean, I'm a big reader lately. I was looking at what we put here. You're wonderful enough to send me a questionnaire beforehand. But a book I put on here for y'all was, if you haven't read it, please do it. And I'll tell you why. It's a book called The Gap and the Gain. Okay. Because of that book. So you'll go on social media and you'll see me and my companies posting all the time. Okay. Let me fill you in a little secret. It's not me doing the posting. Okay. About 2 months ago, okay, I cut social media out of my life. And the reason I cut social media out of my life 2 months ago is because I had just finished this book. And being vulnerable with you all, what I came to realize is no matter how hard I tried to discipline myself and to stop doing it, when I was on social media, I had a tendency to compare myself to others. And it's completely like abuse. Like the only person you should be comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. And so this book really helped me get my arms around that I needed to live in my gains, not in the gaps of where I'm at versus even where I want to be or where others are. Is that phenomenal book. I recommend it to everybody.
So well said. And I read Who Not How, which is the predecessor to this book, which was mind-blowing to me. And I own The Gap and the Gain. And I just because the Who Not How was so good, I would like devour it. Good. So I was like, oh, I got to take a breather, and just before I even start this book. So I'm so glad you brought that up because it's on my bookshelf ready to go and so looking forward to it. Thank you for sharing that one. All right. The first A in badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
So this was, so one of my sayings, my personal slogans is believe, action, faith. Okay. So believe in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, believe in yourself, believe in your vision, your dreams, believe in, for me, like example, I believe in Jesus, right? Whatever it is, there's a lot of different things you need to believe, hopefully you believe in your life. Next is actions you take, right? Is that you go believe it, then you need to take the action. And then beyond your action, you got to leave the rest of it up to faith and that knowing you're not in control of everything is that I tell you what, you have no shot in hell of ever having peace in your life if you think you're in control of everything or you try to control everything. And so I heard a sermon back in 2016 and I've been in the church since I was 8 years old, but I heard a sermon in 16 that I'd never heard before. And it was just changed my life forever. because after I heard this sermon, I realized that I was a control freak and that I needed to start. And so the sermon was, just because you believe doesn't mean you have faith, right? That believing and faith are two different things. And before and just related to my relationship with Jesus, okay, is that I believed in Jesus, but I always looked at kind of believing in Jesus and having faith as the same thing, and they're just not. Is that, yes, I believe in Jesus, but then I need to have faith in that relationship. I need to have faith in that he's in control, not me, right? No difference in your business, right? You got some business, you got some dream, you got a vivid. Another great book is Vivid Vision, right? Like we have a vivid vision, right? Like that vision will never be accomplished without things outside of my control happening. Okay. So I believe in the vision. We're going to take the action for the vision. But at the end of the day, I still got to bring in that last component, which is faith. And if I don't bring in that last component, my life is going to be miserable because I'm going to try to control everything and I'll never have any type of lasting peace in my life. I'll tell you this, as soon as I fall out of peace, okay, and I'm human and I fall out of peace a lot. As soon as I fall out of peace, I can quickly gather myself and realize I'm not exercising my faith muscle, right? If you don't have peace, it's because you're not exercising your faith muscle. Because you can go through some really, really hard times and still have faith and still have peace, right? Or still have peace, but you won't have that peace unless you got to exercise that faith muscle.
Cody, so well said. Thank you for saying that. Ooh, I'm going to go sit in one of your sermons one of these days. All right. The D in badass is drive. What drives Cody to be successful?
Well, I see what my team put on here, and I do have pillars related to legacy, and legacy is a big thing for me. Another one of my slogans is one legacy, right? How many legacies do you have? You have one. How many legacies do I have? I have one. How many do my property sellers that I'm trying to buy their property from? How many legacies they got? One. At the end of the day, every decision you make or don't make, every action you take or don't take, every movement in your life of every single day of every moment shapes your legacy in one way or another, okay? Even our time here together, we're in one way or another shaping each other's legacy. And that's a huge responsibility. So anyways, I have these pillars. I won't go too deep into them because I actually want to tell you something that drives me more than even the pillars of my legacy, which is good, is lasting faith is the L. E is exceptional relationships. G is genuine impact. A is ample finances, which I understand ample finances, they're different for you than they are for me, right? And, okay. And then cherish experiences. And the last one is you. Okay. And so all I try to do is keep all those pillars in my life above the line. Okay. None of them are ever going to be perfect because I'm not Jesus, but I'm just trying to keep them above the line, right? Call it a chart, 1 to 10. I'm trying to keep all my pillars above 5, which is neutral. Is that, and to me, that's the true definition of success is, can I keep all my pillars above the line? Okay, they don't all need to be 10s, like I said. But I'm going to tell you what truly drives me. A guy asked me this 2 weeks ago, and I want you to hear me closely on this. As a guy asked me, he said, Cody, who are you? And I sat there and I thought about it for 10 seconds. And here was my response. And I wrote it down on my wall, and I'm going to read it to you right now. And it's another commitment to me. I want to be known as a vulnerable individual and being willing to say things that most people aren't willing to say. Okay? Is that here's what drives me. I said, I am a broken little boy that's being very intentional and purposeful about pivoting the legacy of my family so that that same little boy doesn't show up in future generations. That's what drives me.
Wow. You do not seem like a broken little boy at all. Wow.
Well, I had a rough, go at it there in the beginning of my life. And, man, I don't want that. I don't want my kids to have that. I don't want their kids to have that. And I'm focused on the pivot. And, there you go.
Cody, you're awesome. This is great. I appreciate this. All right. The second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
So I'm in the process, and my wife and I both feel it, and people around me feel it, is My businesses, for the most part, run without me. I have CEOs in my businesses, and I'm in this process of really, and you might even hear it in me today, is I'm spending more and more time on PIF, right? Purpose, impact, fulfillment, like really making a difference, my legacy. And one goal I have right now that I'm really aspired to accomplish is, I was talking to Tim Tebow about it a couple months ago, is I want to go build a ranch for victims of child trafficking, because these children, they get saved by, it could be Tim Ballard's company, it could be Tim Tebow's company, whatever, right? And then they get put in these safe houses, right? And they get put in there for 60 to 90 days, but then there's limited resources on where do they go from there, because they still really need to go through a rehabilitation process. And so I have this vision that came to me very clearly, is that I want to build a ranch or ranches where we can bring these unfortunate children and provide them room and boarding and education, and it'll have a chapel, and it'll have gardens and animals, and just be a safe place for them to be inspired. And right now, as far as just a name to give you an idea, is Serenity Grace, right? Or Grace Serenity, sorry. It's just, we just want it to be this place that we can just love on these children and just equip them, right, for the world. And so anyways, that's what's definitely driving me, probably more than any other goal right now.
I'm really embarrassed to say that in my bio it says, oh, Jen Josie was a former middle school teacher till she woke up one day and realized she hated children. So you're making me feel like really which I'm joking, but it was one of those things where I got so, over the whole education program. But, you're one legacy right there, just huge, Cody, and what a difference you're going to make. And I truly appreciate it. Excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. All right. The first S in badass is systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
To get the hell out of the way. You wrote the book, or you talked about the book, Who Not How.
Yes.
Right? Is that I'm a big believer in scaling through humility, right? Like a friend of mine, or escape then scale, right? So like a friend of mine has an event he holds on the West Coast and the East Coast, and it's called Scale and Escape. And I believe just the opposite. I mean, I understand the philosophy and it works for a lot of people. For me, it doesn't. I need to escape then scale, because the thing is, another one of my acronyms is ENE, entrepreneur, not executive. Okay. Most entrepreneurs are not good executives. Okay. And you need to scale your business under someone that's a good executive. Okay. And so I believe that the best system I have in place right now is for me to get out of the way. And so I'm learning to scale through humility. I'm learning to scale by realizing what I'm not. Okay. So I went through that humbling process in 2020. I came to the realization the biggest thing holding my company back was me. And then I went on the hunt for an executive, plugged an executive in place, and me stepped away, and then the business started growing. Okay. And so for me, the biggest system for me right now is getting out of the way.
Smart system. And yes, it is important to do that, because you're talking about control freaks. Like, does this guy know me? I'm the biggest control freak there is. So I have to start ramping up my faith. And so thank you. This has been an amazing interview. I really appreciate this. So to wrap this up here, the final S in badass is success. What does success mean to you?
It's definitely those one legacy pillars, which you can find on my website, but I'll say them again. Spells legacy, which is lasting faith, exceptional relationships, genuine impact. And I think I said ample last time. It's able finances, cherished experiences in you. And the reason I'm literally reading these on my wall is because I just established my own pillars, okay, about 3 weeks ago, and put them on my website. And I've always, those have always kind of been my pillars, but I wanted to make them unique to me. And so that's really, I can tell you one of my pet peeves, and it happens every day. We've all probably heard it every single day. Is, oh man, that guy or that gal, they're successful. Man, they're successful. Bullshit. Just because they got a great career or make a lot of money doesn't mean they're successful at all. Mm-hmm. Unless you're keeping all those pillars above the line, you are not successful. If you go make all the money in the world, but you are in horrible health, right? Or you don't have any exceptional relationships in your life, right? Or you don't have any peace in your life because you don't have lasting faith, you're not successful.
Right.
So quit calling people successful just because they got a cool career or a lot of money. That does not mean they're successful.
Well said. Cody, thank you so very much. This has been an awesome, awesome interview. Bjugan, Cody Bjugan. Am I doing it right?
That's me.
Okay.
Yep.
So one more time before we part our ways here, what's the best way for the listeners to find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just going to send you to that free gift. So go to VestRight.com/Reign, REIGN. And then obviously, my name, you can put my name into Facebook, Instagram, wherever, my content's in all those platforms, or go to my website, CodyBjugan.com. But I'd love to be a part of your life. Hopefully I can inspire you in some way or another, and which then leads to impact and leads to my fulfillment, right? Here again, PIF. So I appreciate you having me. It was my pleasure, and I enjoyed spending time with you.
Well, Cody, thank you so much. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to REIGN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of REIGN by registering on reignmastermind.com.